Hey everybody, this is Nori from Smart Service, and today we're going to take a look at the latest and greatest features coming to you in version 109. Alright, so for our first big ticket item here, we're going to head into our Settings tab and go over to our Default section. We have a brand new option here for you that says Do Not Add Jobs to QuickBooks. Now, this is a long-awaited feature. It's something that we've definitely heard requests for in the past from a lot of you. I do want to cover what this setting is going to do and what effects that might have on other parts of your business. The idea behind this setting is that Smart Service will no longer send jobs over to QuickBooks when you create those jobs through Smart Service. If we go over to QuickBooks, for example, here, and we take a look at Dwight Banks, we can see that he has two active jobs currently. There are two services going on for him in Smart Service. We have his customer record, and then below that, we have those two jobs. Now, as many of you are probably aware, once you complete these services and they have no future scheduled dates on them, these jobs will inactivate themselves in QuickBooks, so they will be hidden from you once you're done with them. But while services are ongoing, you do see these job records show up. If you're using QuickBooks Online, you'll see a very similar thing. Yours will say sub-customer instead of jobs. But again, once those services are complete, these records generally go away. Now, some people don't really use these records in QuickBooks for reporting or job costing or some of the other options here, and they'd also like to save space in their QuickBooks list. So that's kind of the purpose of why we've added this option in here, is to help you guys save space, help you eliminate clutter if you're not using those job reports. With that being said, though, there are some things that are going to change about how Smart Service functions when we have this setting enabled. So let's go ahead and take a look at that and see what happens in QuickBooks when we use this box. Alright, so I brought us over to our scheduling board here, and the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and create a job for a customer. So I'll pick out a date, time, and tech, add a new job, and we'll just grab a random customer here and get a job created for said customer. Right away, I'm going to notice some changes about how this job looks in Smart Service here. So let's go ahead and take a look at those changes here. The first thing I'm going to notice is that I no longer have a QB Reports button up here at the top left next to the text message function. That is because this job record does not exist in QuickBooks. In fact, if we head over to QuickBooks here and take a look, we can see we have Gerald Scroggins, the customer record, but I don't have a job record nestled beneath that like I did in previous customers. So we know the function is at work here, but it does change some stuff in Smart Service because of that missing functionality of not having that job record available in QuickBooks for you. So like I said, we know we don't have that QB Reports button. Some other major changes that would come as a result of this setting would be under your job items. So I no longer have the ability to run this get estimates here because there's no job to nestle that estimate under. So that's an important change. You know, if your company's using that estimate, and it might not be for the job types that you generally handle, it might be for something else. So again, this is something you want to check with everybody in your office or check with your admin about. But we don't have that get estimates button. I also don't have that purchase order button here. So just some things to keep in mind. Without that job record existing in QuickBooks, we're going to lose out on some of these other functions, but that might be okay. Maybe you don't use those functions. It might be worth, not having that job record in QuickBooks for you. But like I said, make sure to check with your office staff. Again, it might not be the jobs that you work with on a day-to-day basis. It might be, maybe larger ticket installs and other big items and stuff like that. Might use some of these functions, but enabling that setting is a great way to prevent jobs from going over to QuickBooks. So let's go ahead and finish up our demo of this service here. I'm going to go ahead and add a quick item for us. Okay, so we've got a charge on here that's $65, so that's good. Let's also go ahead and add a payment record so we can see how all this translates over to QuickBooks. So we'll go into payments, and I'll just go ahead and take a quick cash payment here for an example. Okay, so we've got our item and job items. We've got our payment over here in our payments tab. So let's go ahead and get this posted over to QuickBooks and see what we get. So I'll go into my complete box or post work orders. I'm going to go ahead and change my invoice date since we don't have a completed date on this one. I can still see everything looks normal here up to this point, everything that you're used to already. We've got our payment in there, we've got our amount in there. And if we go ahead and hit the post button, it'll go ahead and send that information over to QuickBooks as normal. If I head over there, take a look, you see we've got our invoice for the customer. It's marked as paid so that we know that payment made it over. And if I go back to my customer list here, I can see we've got Gerald, we've got his invoice and payment. They're nestled under the customer this time. That's because there's no job record in QuickBooks, which is the last major change that I want to go over, how this function will impact your day-to-day usage of Smart Service. Whenever this option has been enabled, we do lose some of the invoicing styles that you have options for. There used to be 5 in this list, and if you look in your database right now, you'll likely see 5 of them. The ones that have been taken away are going to be the immediate invoicing for job and the batch invoicing for job option. That's because there's no job in QuickBooks, so we can't invoice that way anymore. If I choose the customer location options, everything still works as normal. That's really what determines where that invoice gets sent in QuickBooks. So since I have immediate invoicing for the customer, that's why on the customer I have the invoicing in there. So again, some big changes. It's definitely worth it if you want to save some space in QuickBooks, but check with the rest of your office staff. Some of these functions might affect other people's jobs in the office there, so we want to make sure we're not ruffling any feathers with that one. And for the next feature in this version, I'm going to bring us over to our reports section, and we're going to look at some timesheet reports and the new feature that we've put in here. So I've got a report created already. Let's go into the Customize Report button and take a look at the new item. And that's going to be right here, this timesheet hours and minutes field. In previous versions of Smart Service, you'd have to just see your jobs as timesheet minutes. So if you had a job that lasted a couple hours, obviously you'd have to do some math there to figure out how many hours that is, because we just display the minute value. With the latest version of Smart Service here, version 109, we've gone ahead and added that timesheet hours and minutes, which will do that calculation for you. So if I go ahead and save this report and we go ahead and run it, we can take a look at what this means for us. So here we see that timesheet hours and minutes, and I can see the different production values in hours and minutes, as opposed to the old way on the far right there, which was just the amount of minutes. So definitely a helpful feature. Remove some math from your day there, make things quick and easy to look at, especially for those jobs that are going to last a couple hours to get done. And while we're on the topic of time, I'd like to go over another feature that's been added in this version, and that is the ability to duplicate timestamps from the post timesheet screen. So if I go ahead and hit the edit tool next to one of these times, I have what's set up as kind of like a crew-based scheduling here. So I've got truck crew 1, and I've got some time values for that truck crew. Now in the past, you used to have to go in there and add in the individual timestamps for each crew member if you wanted to record their times. Well, we've made that a little bit of an easier process for you. If you go to that main time record that you have, on the far right hand side here, you have a new button here, this duplicate record button. And what that will do is it'll create a duplicate of those timestamps for me. So let's say I got 3 people on that crew. I can duplicate it 3 times, and then I can come through here. It'll still keep that time value and the date and the job, but I can change who the employee is. So I can say, okay, Jacob was part of that crew. Let's go ahead and say Mike was part of that crew, and I was part of that crew. This way I can get those timestamps created quite quickly in the system, and when I go ahead and close this, I'll see those timestamps appearing for the other text that I added in that crew. So if you're working in crew-based scheduling or you have an employee that forgets their timestamp, you can go into that main employee and you can duplicate that timestamp to make things easier for you. Alright, and moving on to our next big enhancement for this version, we're going to go ahead and talk about a new option with your purchase order feature. If we go into a job and we head into job items, we can see we have the purchase orders and billable items function. So let's say we want to go ahead and create a purchase order. Well, you guys know this process. You come in here, you hit new, choose your vendor, you choose an item you want to order. So all that part is the same. The big change here is going to come when we want to receive that purchase order for this customer. So we'll go to receive this whenever we get the items in. And up here I have a brand new box that will allow me to receive this purchase order with or without a bill. The reason that this was added in here is a lot of you guys, you get these items in, but the vendor doesn't always get that bill out to you right away. So rather than having that bill sit in QuickBooks and just wait around for the vendor to actually mail you or email you a copy of their version of the bill so you can double check everything and make sure it's good, we now have the option to receive those items, which will still create that closed purchase order in QuickBooks and still create your item receipt in QuickBooks, but it will not create that vendor bill if you tell it not to do so. Everything else around the function works just fine, so I'll go ahead and say create this without a bill. Since I have QuickBooks Inventory enabled, I'll go ahead and choose my inventory site, and I'll save it as usual, which will ask me if I want to add the part to the job. We'll go ahead and say sure. And then as you can see here, if I look at my closed purchase orders, we have our closed purchase order. We've received the items here. If I close out of this window, it adds it to the job. But the big difference is going to happen in the back end in QuickBooks. Now I have my purchase order and my item receipt again, but I do not have that vendor bill. So whenever I get that in the mail or however the vendors send you those bills, you can then go in there, find your purchase order, and create a bill off of that in QuickBooks rather than having Smart Service handle it for you immediately when it might not be the right timing. Alright, so the next two items here have to deal with the customer and job functions in Smart Service, so let's go over these one at a time. The first big option is going to be when you're looking at the Locations and Jobs tab for a customer, we now have the option over here on the right hand side to customize the columns that I'm seeing within the screen. A lot of you guys are familiar with this function back here in the search section where we have the customize columns option to change each of the columns that you see in your screen. We've added that same function to our Locations and Jobs here. I can go into columns, and now I can pick out what I want to see in here. So maybe there's some other information. I want to see if this has a customer purchase order number on it. I can go ahead and add that in there. And we can go ahead and move that up on the list a little bit. And go ahead and save it. And now I have that customer PO field added in here. So you guys have the ability to come in, customize these fields for these Locations and Jobs tab to bring up the most pressing information for you guys. And of course we have all the options in there for you to kind of make this screen your own and make sure you're getting the right information in front of your dispatchers and office folks when you need it. The other option that's new to the job functions here in Smart Service is going to be the ability to choose whether you want to email your work order to the customer or to the employee. This process here is going to be primarily for customers who are using paper work orders rather than iFleet, but of course anybody can take advantage of this feature. It's in the program. If you go up here to your invoice button, well, mine says invoice, yours might say work order or something different, but it'll be this button at the top right. Of course, we can see our work order, and we have this email function up here at the top of the screen. So previously, what you couldn't do was click this email button and get a choice as to whether or not you wanted to email this to the customer or the employee. So you see now I have these buttons here. I can click on whichever one I want to send it to. Let's say I want to send this work order to the employee. It's going to output. It's going to let me do that. Now, one big thing that comes with this, since this is a Microsoft Office-based program, and the function that we're using here for the emailing is Microsoft Office, it's going to require that I use Outlook to do this. So when I click that button, since I don't have Outlook set up, it's going to open up my current version of Outlook, and it's going to ask me to set that up. Although my job reminders and other notifications from Smart Service are set up to work with my Gmail account, like I said, since this is a Microsoft Office function, it's going to require that we use this Outlook feature. So definitely set that up. Once again, if you don't have it set up already, when you go to use this, it'll prompt you to set it up, no matter if you choose the customer or the employee. Alright, we're going to find our last feature hiding in settings, so let's go ahead and head over there. So now that we're in setup, let's go into Setup Smart Service Add-ons. I'm going to go into our text messaging section, and we're going to visit our text message shortcuts. If you're not using the text messaging features in Smart Service, or you're not too familiar with these text message shortcuts yet, what these do is when you are receiving text from customers, if there's kind of a quick reply you want to have just sitting and waiting for you guys to be able to use it, that's what these are really. So let's just say, customer sends us some more information about the job and we want to give out a quick thank you, and I don't feel like typing all that out every single time. I can make one of these message shortcuts, and that'll help me reply quicker. Now, in the past, you just write out something, let's say, we write out thanks. Well, we've added a new feature in here that'll let you personalize this a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and say thanks, and then instead I'll right click and I'll go ahead and add in some of these merge fields. For those of you who have used email job reminders or similar functions, you're probably used to these merge fields. If I go ahead and select one of these, I can show you what it does. So we'll say thanks, first name, and that'll let me personalize this message, because what it will do is whenever I use this message shortcut with one of these merge fields in it, like so, it's going to go ahead and grab the customer's first name from their record. And the message here will read thanks and then whatever their name is. So the way to get that to work properly, we'll go ahead and close out of this for now, is to take a look at your customers. Not all customers will be filled out the same way. For example here, Anthony, he has a first name in this first box. That's what that first name code referred to. If he doesn't have a first name, if it's just blank like this, we didn't fill it out for some reason, when you go to send that, it's going to say thanks, comma, and then just a blank space. So it's important that when we add those merge fields, we make sure that we have data in there to back them up. So we'll want to make sure to come in here and add in everybody's name. That way, when I use that text message shortcut, it says thanks, Anthony. So definitely take a look at what you guys have available on your customers, or for the most part for your customers. When you're in here and we're setting up those text message shortcuts, you do have other options. So maybe you don't fill out that first name box. Maybe you fill out the contact name though, or some of these other fields. You can definitely use these. But like I said, just check out what you have on your customers. That'll make it quick and easy for you guys to reply to those customers with those text message shortcuts. Alright everybody, so that'll wrap things up for version 109 of Smart Service, which should be available now. If you want to see more update videos like these and keep up to date on the latest and greatest enhancements coming your way, go ahead and visit us at smartservice.com/updates. If you'd like to obtain a copy of that update, or you need help running the update, you can always reach out to our support team at 888-518-0818, or email us at support@myservicedepot.com. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in the next video.